Hello students, today we take up the next topic of discussion and that is India's climate. Now the climate of a country plays a very major role in shaping the lives of the people. It determines the type of crops the country can grow, the industries which can bring about a change in the life of the people through these crops and other things. Then it can also influence the lifestyle of the people, the food they eat, the types of clothes they wear, and the festivals which they celebrate. Now, India is having a lot of climatic diversity. Basically, if it is asked what kind of a climate does India have, then we should answer that India has a tropical monsoon type of climate. However, the regional variation is very vast. And why? Because India is a very big country. And because of this, the interiors are very far away from the effect of the seas which are around. And so, many places which are to the northwest, to the central, they are having a continental type of climate, which means they are having extremes of temperature. That is, during the summer, they are having very high temperatures, while during the winters, they experience a very low temperature. However, areas which are close to the coast, they have a very moderating effect of the seas and oceans which are close by. And hence, there is not enough significant change in their climate or their weather conditions. Continental type of climate is found in the central and in the northwestern region, while the coastal climate, maritime or moderating climate is found in the coastal areas. Now the coastal areas have an equable type of climate with a very small difference in their summer and winter temperature. However, in the mountainous regions which are in the north, in these areas, here the winter temperatures are very low and the climate is mainly determined by the altitude. There is a great deal of variation in the amount of rainfall. We have the wettest place in over here, that is Mawsyn Ram. Cherrapunji earlier was the wettest place. And as one goes from the south towards the north and the west, the amount of rainfall decreases. The Thar Desert is in the northwest and it is very hot and dry. Now, there are several factors which determine the climate of our nation. And basically, there are 5 important factors about which I'm going to speak in detail and explain about them. The first being latitude, which is very much responsible in affecting the climate of a place. Altitude or height of a region is also a very significant factor which determines the climate of the place. Then comes position with respect to mountains, that is the place which is having mountainous region around, how the mountains are affecting the climate of that particular region. Distance from the sea means closer to the sea, more equable climate. Far away from the sea, the climate becomes extreme. And lastly, winds. Winds also play a major role in determining the climate of a place. Now let us talk about each of these factors in detail. Now, with the Tropic of Cancer running through the middle of the country, most of India lies in the tropical and subtropical region. So the temperature is generally very high. South of the Tropic of Cancer is the tropical region, and north of the Tropic of Cancer is the subtropical region. Now, because of the Tropic of Cancer passing through almost the middle of the continent, India has been divided into two major regions, subtropic and tropical region. Now, the temperature of a place always depends upon the altitude. So, as one goes high up, the temperature goes on decreasing. Let's see how. Now, here you can see closer to the sea, it has got the molecules of air to be very dense. But as we move towards the higher reaches, we see that the molecules become less dense. That is, they are far away from one another. Now, this does not allow the sun's rays or the heat of the sun to be absorbed readily. That is why higher altitude, that is places at higher altitude, are colder, while closer to the foothills or closer to the seas, plains, here the density of the molecules is very, very high and they are very close, ensuring that the heat of the sun is absorbed readily and the temperature becomes high. That is why we find that places which are on the hills like Shimla, Srinagar, Ooty or Udagamandalam are cooler places than the plains. Ooty in Nilgiri over here is pleasant throughout the year in spite of it being relatively close to the equatorial region. All because of the places situated at an altitude. Now, to the north of India, we have the lofty mountains, that is the Himalayas, and they actually stand as a barrier. Barrier means a kind of a hindrance. It stops the cold winds which are coming from northern Asia. If this Himalayas would not have been here, then India would have been very, very cold during the winters. Especially the plains in north would have become freezing cold because of the uninterrupted cold winds which could have reached right up to the northern plains of India. Fortunately, because of the lofty Himalayas, this does not occur, and all these areas have got a cool winter. The Himalayas also play a major role in forcing the rain-bearing winds to drop all their moisture to the southern part of the mountains. Without the mountain barrier, all these monsoon winds which are coming from the Bay of Bengal would have blown to Central Asia, and the northern part of India would have remained dry. In this diagram, we can see clearly that the warm, moist wind strike against the Himalayas and drop all their moisture in the southern part, while the Tibetan plateau, which lies on the northern part of the Himalayas, become very dry because of lack of rain and it lying in the rain shadow area. So this is how the Himalayas play a very important role in shaping the climate of India. Besides this, the Western Ghats also influence the rainfall in Western India. They force the rain-bearing southwest winds, which are coming from the Arabian Sea, to drop all their moisture in the western part of the Western Ghats. And when these rain-bearing winds they cross the Western Ghats, they become dry, and hence places like Pune, Bangalore, they lie in the rain shadow area, while places like Mumbai, Mangalore, Cochin, Trivandrum in the south, they all get a very, very heavy rainfall, while areas which are to the east of the Western Ghats are in the lee side and are considerably dry. The seas have a moderating influence in the coastal areas. This means that areas which are close to the sea do not experience a large variation in their temperatures, and therefore across the seasons they do not experience a lot of variation in temperatures. For example, Chennai experiences less variation in temperature than Delhi, which is very, very far away from the influence of the seas. Now, this is the reason, that is, Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, they are all in the coastal areas. So, the variation in their seasonal temperature is far less compared to that of Delhi, which is nearly 1500 kilometers away from the influence of the seas and oceans. Now, winds, they also affect the climate of India. We have already come to know how the monsoons are affecting the climate of India. Now, apart from the monsoon winds, there are several other winds also which affect the climate of India. One among them being the western disturbances. The western disturbances occur in the Mediterranean regions. When stormy conditions occur in the Mediterranean regions, the effect of these storms can be felt far away in India. And these storms are carried from Mediterranean Sea across Turkey, Syria, parts of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. So this is the direction of the wind from the west towards the east. That is why it is known as the western disturbances. And from here it enters India and affects the northern plains, reducing the temperature in the northern plains, and sometimes it also brings rainfall. During the summer, the hot, dry loo blows across the northern plains, desiccating and drying everything around it, reducing the water level, and it affects people when they get affected by the heat wave caused by the hot, dry wind, which is known as loo. There is a marked increase in the temperature because of this wind, which comes from the dry regions of the west. So students, we have just now learnt what are the factors which affect the climate of our country. I hope you have understood all the 5 factors which have been explained right now. So that is what we have enough time for today. Thank you.